Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Puskevich,
Present.
Ms. Knoll,
Here.
Ms. Lloyd,
Here.
Ms. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Sykes,
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker,
Here.
Mr. Reddinger.
Here.
All present.
At this time, we're gonna hold a public hearing on ordinance 2021-1372, parking. I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Diamond, Secretary.
Good evening. This is the time and the place for the public hearing of the Borough of Middletown Council regarding the proposed amendment to the Middletown Borough zoning ordinance to revise certain off-street parking requirements. This hearing is held pursuant to section 609 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, which sets forth the process for zoning ordinance amendments. At the meeting of council on March 2, 2021, action was taken to advertise ordinance 2021-1372 for off-street parking requirements and to schedule a public hearing for this evening on the proposed ordinance to amend section 1, part 2 of general legislation, chapter 260 of zoning of the Code of Ordinances of the Borough of Middletown, specifically section 260-172, facilities required, to increase the minimum number of off-street parking spaces from the current ratio requirement of 1.33 spaces for every dwelling unit with respect to apartment houses / single-family attached dwellings, to student housing, and the conversion apartments categories of types of uses to 2.0 spaces for each dwelling unit. The proposed ordinance was forwarded both to the Middletown Planning Commission and to the Dauphin County Planning Commission for their review and comment as required by the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. At this time, I will ask that Al Giositz, the zoning officer, come up to stand. We're going to make some exhibits. This is being recorded and it can be transcribed if necessary. I'll hand to you, Mr. Giositz, some pre-marked exhibits here and ask you one by one to explain some of these. I'll give you the first three here. Exhibit number 1, exhibit number 2, and exhibit number 3. And just for the record, can you look at exhibit number 1, and is that the proposed ordinance we're talking about? Ordinance number 2021-1372?
Yes, it is.
And then, was in fact the proposed ordinance provided to the Dauphin County Planning Commission?
Yes.
And did the borough receive back a letter of report from the Dauphin County Planning Commission?
We did.
And is that exhibit number 2? Is that a true and correct copy of that?
Yes, that's correct.
And what's the date of that report?
December 11th, 2020.
And I turn your attention to exhibit number 3. These are all borough exhibits. What is that exhibit?
It's a letter from the Middletown Borough Planning Commission signed by the Vice Chair approving that they reviewed and approved the amendment to the zoning ordinance.
And what is the date of that report?
January 28th, 2021.
And Mr. Joseph, I'm going to hand you borough exhibit number 4 for the record, if you could just identify what that is.
It's a verification of advertising in local paper.
And did the borough advertise the hearing and then also the meeting after, on the same date here, that this may be adopted 2 consecutive weeks, not more than 30 and not less than 7 days prior to tonight, pursuant to section 107 of the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code?
They did.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joseph. At this time, we'll hear from any citizens, residents and taxpayers who wish to speak regarding this proposed ordinance to change those parking ratios from 1.33 to 2 spaces per dwelling unit. there any member of the public that wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, does any member of Borough Council or the mayor have any comments to make regarding the proposed ordinance?
Mr. Solicitor, I think it's crucial that we pass the proposed ordinance. Parking in this community is dire straits, and hopefully this is a path to correct some of those wrongdoings.
And, Vice President Sykes, have you received any comments from citizens throughout the past several months while this is under consideration?
I have received positive thoughts about the ordinance. They wish we could get backwards, which I've expressed to them that we cannot. This is only moving forward. Yes, everybody is excited that going forward, if there's any future projects, that this will hopefully correct those situations.
And then your references to going backwards and going forwards, essentially that already existing developments are grandfathered.
Correct.
Non-conforming use,
Correct.
this would only apply to new ones. I believe we can close the record at this time if there are no other comments. Any other comments from mayor or council members? Anyone on the phone? Okay, then council will have the ability at the regular meeting that's immediately following this, when it gets to that point on the agenda, to act on this. Can either pass it or not pass it. Okay, we can close that hearing and resume the regular business meeting.
At this time, I'd like to move on to a presentation from the Dollar General.
Good evening. Guess you guys remember me. My name is Bob Gage. I'm with GBT Realty. We are a developer out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we are seeking to get a exterior elevations approved, a positive recommendation from council, so we can move forward with the rezoning of that piece of property. I'd like to point out a few things, if I may.
Sir, can I ask you one question?
Sure.
We received an email roughly a week ago,
Okay.
and I think this is the diagram. Is this the current diagram that you're referencing?
It is, yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go on record immediately stating that I'm opposed to the diagram presented. That is not what we have discussed, and therefore, I don't see the point of wasting any more citizens' time or any more of our time.
I do have a question as well, to ask about Mr. Gage. I think the picture that we provided you indicating that, that's it, you would have the support of council concerning your request if you met that picture. The one thing I was confused about, I just wanted to ask for clarification. These fake windows, I don't see any of the awning roofs over them.
I have revised those. I have a revised version
Oh.
of it with awnings.
So it is not what we've seen.
Well,
This is
the only-
not the right one.
Okay.
The only difference is there's awnings over those shutters. That's the only change.
Do you have any change on there with regard to the sign on the street?
I brought a monument sign.
And the dumpster.
The dumpster.
I don't even know about the dumpster.
This is,
Well, we can't have a pretty looking building and an ugly dumpster. I'm just being honest.
No, I'm
Yeah.
trying to understand what you're after.
Well, we want a nice looking building and we want a nice looking dumpster.
I mean, in regards to the dumpster enclosure, what are you looking for?
Personally, I'm looking for the exact same here as you got in the, it could be a cinder block dumpster casing with the coloring of the building. That I would be fine with, personally.
I would be fine with that as well.
Can,
Uh,
is it Mr. Gage, correct?
It is.
And I apologize, so this one that you just gave us, the
They're a little hard to see because
yeah,
of the
but
same color.
I think you've got it now. So
They are noted, if you look at,
underneath on this, on the miniature type. So Scott,
yes,
on the side view of the sheet we were just provided,
Yep.
if you look at the first lettering, it says shutters and awnings. So we do have the awnings on.
It's hard to see because of the.
Yeah, because of the same
If you-
color, and then this is the sign?
Correct. If you would look at the top two elevations there, on the side, in between those two, you can see the awnings projecting out.
I do see that.
Okay, so that's
Um,
what's on all of the, over all those shutters.
Okay.
And then that is the proposed monument sign.
And then, two more questions for me, Mr. Gage. If, to Mr. Seitz's point with regard to the dumpster, and he's looking for some sort of hard enclosure, can you mimic the brick from this
Yes.
on the enclosure?
Like I said, I don't even care if it's brick as long as it's cinder block and it's that color.
It's painted to match.
Yeah.
Well, council should definitely give him direction, because painting the cinder block as opposed to the brick is two different
Just
things.
like a smooth cinder block, painted to match.
If they want, so that's that option, or you can do this to mimic what's on the bottom here.
Put brick,
What do you guys like?
I'm either work. Not
That would match the building if you did
Yeah.
that. And then,
And I'm just gonna, did we want trees along the left side, because that's a residency, I know that's not there right now.
I thought they did include trees.
trees, that'll be on the cemetery side?
Yeah, I think that these are up against the building on the right side, but I think on the cemetery side, they're off the building, is that all right enough?
I believe that's correct. Let me check this plan real quick. Yes. Yeah, so they just stand off the building a little bit,
We have-
it's like potentially 25 feet or so off the building. And there's also a proposed, 6-foot tall wood privacy fence along that side as well.
Mr. Solicitor, if they do not follow through with any of these requests, what is our recourse?
Well, I think we'd have to talk about entering into some sort of an agreement, a developer's agreement in conjunction with doing the amendment, since this is a discretionary amendment to the zoning ordinance.
So if they agree to it and they do not plant the tree there at the 12-foot setback off the right exterior, what is the penalty? Or what could we, result in the penalty?
Well, I mean, you could do it even as an injunction to have it done, or, you know, as you don't have the approval.
So you're saying if the building was built and that tree was not there, we could deny a permit for occupancy?
Yes, right. Right. Now, we'd have to work out that agreement in conjunction with, because it is a unique situation here.
Wouldn't that be part of the, planning commission process as we go through?
Well,
Whatever
what
drawings.
they're saying here, though, is that before they amend the ordinance, now, well, obviously, you can amend the ordinance to make this, you know, a requirement for everybody going forward that we meet certain things. But, yeah, if you're talking about a one-off agreement, probably should, you know, nail it.
Could this result in litigation for us?
Anything in the world can.
Can we call for an executive session as a result of this?
So I don't think we have any threat to any litigation or agreement. No, I wouldn't, I don't think it's appropriate for executive session.
Sure.
Any other counselors have any other expressed concerns?
don't I recall in previous drawings that there were exterior lights that washed down the walls?
There will be a few lights on the, parking lot side of the building, yes.
Are they, Mr. Gage, are the lights, I'm sorry, Alan.
I don't see them.
They're all 100% shielded, so everything will be pointed down, along with the lights out in the parking lot.
Mr. Gage, if I could try to clarify, Ellen, you tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth. I don't think she's talking about general lighting. I think she was talking about like a decorative, it was like on a stem or something.
Right.
It's like a gooseneck.
It's like
There
a
was
goose-
one-
gooseneck.
Down
I
the
think it was on
sides of the
prior-
building?
There was one rendering that had gooseneck lights like on the front.
And on the sides, they might have been above the windows for all I know, I don't
think-
remember, but,
Dollar General has since discontinued those gooseneck lights, they're putting wall packs on the side of the building now. If that's a requirement, then I'll
Yeah.
request that we go back to the old light on this. That's,
what is the, can you describe for us, Mr. Gage, what the new
What's-
light looks
yeah,
like?
what's-
it's just a box, basically, it's a wall pack and it's shielded, so all the light is facing down, it's not projected out, so it won't be, it meets the, dark sky requirements.
That's up to the council.
Yeah, and let me clarify, Scott, there's, anything you do, we'll have to figure out exactly the mechanism for doing it. That was gonna take an amendment to the zoning map and or ordinance, so it's gonna have to go through county, this whole process like we just did for this little change.
Right.
It'll have to go through the planning commissions, it will have to be a proposal, and we'll have to have a hearing and then an adoption. So you're not gonna take any action tonight,
Tonight,
it's
right.
gonna really change the ordinance, you can't legally do that. You know, you can express that, you're in favor of this concept and moving forward with it, but you will have to go through the NPC process to amend at least the zoning map, and if you wanna actually, wrap around this concept, changes for everyone in whatever the district is, going forward, some text language changes that both require advertising, posting, public comment, and the planning commission's input.
Unfortunately, Mr. Gage, I have one more question.
Sure.
So, again, to piggyback off of Mr. Seitz' comments concerning the dumpster, which I think you've addressed with either option. The other question I have, and I think this is the first time we've seen the sign paper
Yes.
in front of us.
It is.
This, the black portion of this, can this also be done with brick to match the building? I think that's nice.
Yeah,
And that's,
I think I could forgo the lights with brick signage.
What, it did
With
have-
the dressed up lights,
oh,
the dressed up lights that you're
so
using.
Mr. Gage, these
Gooseneck.
small black, rectangles, are they the downlights? Are they now the box downlights?
1 second. Yes,
Okay, so those are the box downlight locations?
correct.
Okay.
You'll see there's 4 of them, 5 of them across the right exterior elevation.
In my professional opinion as an electrician, I think the wall packs are suitable on the sides and back of the building. The only place aesthetically that I would say there should be a gooseneck or a decorative picture would be the 2 front windows. I'm not formally making that request, it's just my input. I think it would look better than just a wall pack. Okay. And that's just 2 out of the maybe dozen lights.
Mhm. At what point does the traffic study enter this process?
Would not necessarily be one,
Sir, I believe
They did one.
Dollar General did one.
yeah, we didn't say.
Oh, there
going
is
through
one,
preliminary.
there is one.
We did a preliminary.
Do you have the,
It depends also on if there's gonna be a change on the, cause that's a PennDOT road, on the highway occupancy permit, if that's changing, PennDOT will determine the scoping of, any traffic, impact study.
Oh, then PennDOT reviews the,
Yeah, so the 230 is a PennDOT road.
Right.
So any access, apparently, there's an existing driveway now, if you, are within the volume of that permit and it doesn't change, then, they wouldn't change anything. Presumably, as soon as you change anything, any component of it, then PennDOT would look and they determine whether there's, a requirement for, what the study would be, how, broad the study is, what intersections it would look at, all those kinds of things.
so
And then what if
PennDOT
any
is gonna look at
changes?
the traffic study?
What's
Is
that?
so I'm sorry, PennDOT reviews the traffic study?
They'll-
Because it's a PennDOT road?
If
Yes,
there's one
yes.
required, they will request it from us.
if one is required.
Correct, but there shouldn't be, because this is it's a low volume, entry point, access drive. They typically do not require traffic studies.
Mr. Diamond, can we send this over to them and say, hey, will you require a traffic study prior to anything?
We really have to follow
So-
what our subdivision land development ordinance says that we do. We shouldn't really be, right now, the discretionary ask is, you don't have to do anything with your zoning ordinance, it can never be built there. You know, are you gonna do the discretionary change to the zone, but once we get beyond that, the rules of, what we as a municipality require are whatever is required for everybody under the subdivision land development ordinance. And PennDOT similarly has kind of uniform standards. I mean, there are some oddball things, like Saturday I just had a hearing for a casino, and you know, in that world, the gaming commission requires a traffic study, so the state's doing it, even though PennDOT wouldn't and the municipality wouldn't. You know, you might get another thing like that, but that's not gonna be,
So do we know the results of the traffic study?
We could know them, yes, if,
We'll submit those with the drawings.
Just 'cause there's been so much development in that area of Main Street, which is great, but Main Street was never built for that much traffic. So just have to ask the question, with a major new retail space, at the same clogged area of the tire store, the AutoZone, and all of Giant Plaza.
yeah, and you may wanna factor that in.
Then we have
Yeah.
pedestrian issues on Main Street.
Yeah, so tonight
already.
is not a time when you should make and you can't make the decision whether you're actually gonna change the ordinance. And those considerations may weigh into, so you may wanna ask for, if, I don't know if you guys have information on that yet, but it might be that as council, you wanna request, if you have any information, to look at that, because you may decide, oh yeah, the building's great, but, we're too concerned about traffic impact that we're not gonna change the ordinance. Those are the kind of considerations you're gonna have to look at when you make the decision, are you gonna amend the zoning
Okay.
ordinance in that? Because it does have those kinds of implications.
Right.
And,
So
and
then we
that's
can't
a
take-
unique part of the world, because
I
again,
know.
this is discretionary, this is a legislative act, you're making the law, the map is the law and the ordinance is the law, which is different from once the ordinances and map are in place, anybody that comes in as an applicant, they're entitled to get approval if they meet all the eligibility requirements. So, you have a broader thing you can look at, whatever, due diligence you feel that you need to decide, is it appropriate to amend the law of this town,
Okay.
to change that zoning.
So with that said, Mr. Gage is looking for some direction from this body. We've talked about, some renovations to the sign, renovations to the dumpster, maybe some lighting upgrades, and the traffic impact study. What else can we give him, or what's direction what's the?
Yeah, well, and it seemed to me the exercise up until this point really was, can you live with the parts that they're controlling? And now, you're also raising the traffic specifically, and, maybe even talk to HRG about what they recommend be looked at. Is that there's an engineering art to, what kind of, what should a traffic study look like? What should it analyze? How far out should it analyze it?
I don't wanna put the cart before the horse, but I think we might be doing a traffic study on Main Street internally. I think Mr. Wilsbach might.
Yes, I have
Is that right?
information tonight on traffic.
Would you mind just butting in real quick, Mr.
Well,
Wilsbach?
just, due to, the increased, traffic that we have and incidents with pedestrians mainly, versus vehicles, we have a letter drafted to send to PennDOT to request a traffic study on Main Street. Now, the traffic study is not gonna be a site study for traffic around that specific location. It looks at, the road as a whole, and it'll take, speed readings And the way the traffic study works, just because you ask for it to be reduced, it goes off the 80th percentile, you know, with the current speeds of the vehicles. So it looks at that, it looks, you know, at the top and the bottom, and it'll take the 80th and then it'll round it. And that's what they say the speed should be. Now, there's other factors, of course, that you could get into, like with the pedestrian, but I know what they're gonna, I've been through all the courses, I'm a roadmaster 2 through their program, they're gonna say it's signage, so, you know.
So let me tell you, they're not looking at.
They will not,
They're not
they
looking
will
at
not
time
look at,
horizon.
yes, correct. That's a totally separate thing.
Yeah, that's a
Because what that
transportation
looks
tax,
at
right.
is, how many cars will probably turn left from east-west? How many cars will turn into Giant from east-west? And, you know, the amount of vehicles going straight.
Yeah.
And the amount of, so they would take that into consideration along with how close it is to the current traffic signal that's there on Vine Street. And so forth. So there's a lot more involved with a specific study at that location. They may not deem it, you know, when he does his HOP, they, you know, this is what they'll say should be done. So my traffic study is more so for a speed reduction.
Yeah, that's what I thought, it's not gonna look at
Correct.
the imputed future time horizon,
Yes, sir.
expected
They'll do that
development.
whenever they review my application.
Right.
Mr. Gage, to, I guess, put you in the loop, the reason why there's so much talk about this traffic study is within the last month, we've had a pedestrian fatality and another injured, on Main Street just a few blocks away.
Okay.
So I'm sure you're wondering why we're talking so much about traffic studies, and
I assumed it would come up.
it's on our radar. Main Street is on our radar.
I just didn't anticipate it coming up tonight. I would brought the information with me.
Right. Now, that's the oddity, because this is, if you think about it, the peculiar
Yes.
locking or unlocking of these issues, even though normally, yeah, it would be more of a land development, you know, later stage or an HOP issue.
Yes, sir.
So it's, it is a sensitive issue that kind of
Understood.
comes in from the side angle. But it looks like council's questions about the proposed physical plan of the building, the aesthetics, those things are pretty well answered tonight.
So what I've got, dumpster enclosure to match the building, monument sign base to match the building. Make sure all the trees that are shown on these elevations are on the landscape plan. Gooseneck lights on the front of the building, and look into my traffic study and the DOT submittal. Anything else?
I think there was Ian had mentioned, wall pack lights on the sides.
They're already there.
There already is?
Yes.
And the left exterior also has a wooden fence,
Correct.
and was it trees on both sides?
Right.
I believe that is what I'm showing. The ones on the cemetery side are a little bit off the building, so you can't see them,
Okay.
in those elevations.
What is the material of the fence along the cemetery?
Wood.
6-foot wood.
That was gonna be my question. Can we go to metal with a decorative,
Metal. Huh?
I just feel that wood tends to deteriorate quicker.
How about vinyl?
Like a gray
Yeah,
vinyl,
yeah,
or just a vinyl. Like.
Yeah.
Vinyl would,
That's
yeah, yeah, great, that's even better, fine.
That's like the solid panels, 8 foot wide?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's also the fencing, where's Al? I think that the borough allows 6-foot privacy fence or a 6-foot privacy fence with a 2-foot lattice. Because you can't have 8 solid because of wind, but you could do 6 and 2, or it would just be 6 solid.
Just 6.
Is that correct, Al?
You can go up to 8 feet, but it's gonna be 50-50 openings above 6, so it's gonna be a last.
I mean, obviously, it's gonna have to comply with the zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Al. Okay. I think,
So what is it you wanted to do?
I'm
I think
fine
he
with
knows.
vinyl. I'm fine with vinyl if the body's fine with vinyl.
And you want the 6 foot with the 2 foot
I
lattice?
don't,
or-
I'm
Just to be clear, we are talking about screening the cemetery, right?
Correct.
Right.
I'm not opposed to it.
Makes no sense to me, but okay. There's a lot of money for nothing. Okay. Anything
Some
else?
people want their, loved ones to be cared for.
That fence ought to do it. Anything else? So I take it that, I'm good to move forward with the rezone process at this point?
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna have to, in that process, look at, you know, the bigger global
Oh,
issues
obviously,
of
yes. Mhm.
traffic, it sounds like.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
Okay.
Mr. Gage, thank you for your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to public comment on agenda items.
Mr. President, if I could please, with the hip, I don't want to try to walk. In reference to Mr. Gates's presentation, if you would consider that part of the agenda.
Sure.
Ms. Ellenberger, when, years back, that I can remember, when Giant Foods was put in out there were numerous traffic studies done. The volume of traffic going up and down Main Street may have increased, but the number of businesses has not. So I would think it would be, to take what you're going to do and do it, it's correct, but I don't think it's going to change the amount of vehicles turning left or turning right with having another business. Our number of businesses haven't changed out there. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Good historical insight there. Any other public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, or, agenda item number 1.
We have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for the March 16th, 2021 meetings as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry. I have a motion by Councilor Seitz, a second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Motion approved. Agenda item number 2.
Agenda item number 2 is a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated March 31st, 2021 for the period March 12th through March 31st, 2021, to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make said payment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 3.
This is a motion to ratify the engagement of Post and Shell as special counsel for representation regarding the disputes that have arisen under the concession agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Miller. Any questions?
I'm going to abstain from this because I know nothing about what's happening. Because I am not on the executive session.
Okay.
Ian,
Yes. Yes, Ms. Lloyd?
can you hear me?
Yes.
I would like to disclose to council at this time that I do have a very close personal friend that is an employee of Post and Shell, so I would like to refer to the solicitor to make sure that there is no conflict on my vote.
No, there is no conflict, and Councilor Lloyd and I have spoken in detail about this, off the record. She had asked me, this is not an attorney who's working on a very large law firm, so there's no, conflict of interest in the legal sense. So, it's your choice, Councilor Lloyd, but you're not required by law to, recuse yourself. There's no necessity for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns?
Mr. Donovan, are you allowed to abstain because you have no knowledge of an item?
Yeah, I don't think it's inappropriate to say I don't, know anything about this and don't wanna vote.
Fair
It's
enough.
it's not a required, it's not a recusal, or, there's no conflict of interest or anything like that.
How can I vote on it when nobody called me and told me what's going on and I have no information as to even why we're hiring him?
I would like to not even get into this tonight and move on, because you have made every accommodation for her to engage in the executive sessions, and I think that's where we can end this.
Any other questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstaining?
Aye.
Motion carries with one abstention. Agenda item number 4.
This is a motion to accept the proposed 2021-2025 5-year CapEx plan dated February 26, 2021, as provided by Suez, subject to specific reservations and rejections noted in our letter of response dated March 26, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Ms. Willenbecker motion, and I second.
Motion by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Seitz. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5.
This is in reference to ordinance 2021-1372. A public hearing was held regarding the existing off-street parking requirements of 1.33 spaces per dwelling unit for apartment houses and/or single-family attached homes, student housing, and conversion apartments. This was reviewed by the Dauphin County Planning Commission as well as the Borough's Planning Commission, who is recommending increasing the required number of spaces to 2 for every dwelling unit. Motion to adopt ordinance 2021-1372, amending off-street parking requirements.
So,
Second.
Motion by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 6.
Council requested a fund be established for the purpose of providing for the purchase of replacement fire and rescue apparatus. This ordinance would provide for that fund with transfers equal to 10% of the general fund's year-end surplus, with transfers being made after receiving audited financial statements. This ordinance was properly properly advertised, and we would be looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-1376, providing for a fire apparatus fund.
so,
Second.
Motion by Councilor Seitz, second by Councilor Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 7.
This is a traffic study on Main and Vine. Public Works Director Will Spock had the Borough Engineer draft a letter to PennDOT requesting a traffic study be conducted for Main and Vine streets, reevaluating the speed limits. If council agrees, we will be looking for a motion to approve a traffic study be done to reevaluate the speed limits on Main and Vine streets.
So moved.
second.
Motion by Councilor Willenbecker, second by Councilor Seitz. Any questions?
Mr. Reinier, I'd just like to state, not only will this improve safety, I believe that it may improve our business district environment by creating a more, walking-friendly district that hopefully people will be able to patronize the businesses that are out there. I encouraged this back in 2012 when I was on council, and PennDOT denied it then. I don't know if you remember that, Mr. Wilson, but I think it's definitely worth a second look.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8.
Staff received a letter of interest from Logan Holstein, a resident of Middletown Borough, to serve on the zoning hearing board. This is a motion to adopt resolution 2021-8, appointing Logan Holstein as an alternate member to the zoning hearing board with a term to expire December 31st, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Seitz, second by Counselor Miller. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9.
This is in reference to handicap parking. Staff received an application for an unreserved handicap parking spot for 218 Market Street. Codes is recommending approval of the application. This motion is to grant an unreserved handicap parking spot at 218 Market Street, subject to annual renewal as put forth in ordinance 1354.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Seitz, second by Counselor Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? I'm sorry for the, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 10.
Interim Chief Morris has requested approval to purchase police radios, as the current radios will no longer be able to be supported by the county. The motion to approve the purchase of police radios APX 8000 and APX 8500 series and accessories in the amount of $78,000 as listed on the ICDA spending plan as approved by council December 14th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Willenbecker, second by Counselor Miller. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 11.
With the ordinance adopted for the fire apparatus sinking fund and the grant awarded by the Dauphin County Gaming Grant towards debt reduction of the pumper truck, Fire Chief Whitebread is requesting the $48,000 budgeted for payment on the pumper be transferred to the fire apparatus sinking fund. If council is in agreement, we would be looking for a motion to authorize the transfer of the $48,000 budgeted for payment on the pumper truck from the general fund to the fire apparatus sinking fund.
I got cut off again.
So moved.
I'll just keep you on my speaker if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Yes.
I'm sorry, where are we at?
She discussed transfer of fire apparatus, and I motion for so moved.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Seitz, second by Counselor Willenbecker. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Agenda item number 12.
This is a plan approval for 293 East Main Street. The Planning Commission has reviewed and is recommending approval of the final development plan for David Obenstein at 293 East Main Street. The motion is to approve David Obenstein's final plan for 293 East Main Street as presented.
Before we, can we take a time out? Al, could you clarify something for us, please? First, Sam.
Sure.
You were asking.
Yes, Al. Stormwater management, section 236, the proposed structure covers 1,988 feet, 79% of the lot. Therefore, there is insufficient amount of space to provide a BMP without major cost and excavation. A waiver of this is requested. Can you discuss that and why we should do that on Main Street?
I'm not the borough engineer, so I'm not really qualified to, explain stormwater regulations to you. It's,
Well, I guess then I'm gonna ask you, why should we approve it? Why should we approve a warehouse on Main Street where Dollar General is gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars here to improve the town? Members First has, Rite Aid has, Old Coley has. We could go down the street and list them. And then we're gonna put in a warehouse at 293 East Main Street across from J&J's?
that has significant stormwater management issues.
I quite honestly think this is an embarrassment to our zoning board.
The zoning is irrelevant for tonight, but the issue is,
Well, zoning is irrelevant tonight, but they had a part in this.
okay, well, but before tonight, there is a request for, there's a non-compliant part with stormwater, and unless there's an approved, waiver that's requested, then the plan.
From us.
Yeah, then the plan would be denied, or deniable.
Mr. Renner, I make a motion to deny the plan approval for 293 East Main Street.
Well, I would specifically,
As
call
a re-
out first the, request for the waiver as a subpart.
Mr. Renner, this evening I am making a motion to deny the approval of 293 East Main Street as a result of section 236 stormwater management, requesting the approval to authorize 79% of the lot being covered with impervious surface. And I am requesting that we deny that request.
I have a motion by Councilor Seitz, a second by Councilor Whittenpecker. Any questions?
You know, Scott brings up a good point.
Go ahead, Ellen and Angie, I'll be right with you.
Scott brings up a good point. We have spent so much time with Dollar General on a conversation that might be somewhat new, that we really are starting to pay more attention to the aesthetics of Main Street. And I don't know if, we need to bring the planning commission into that conversation.
Okay, let me stop you a second and just kind of point out a couple of the rules of the road with this kind of subdivision land development ordinance application. So aesthetics have nothing to do with it and are not a proper relevant factored away. The issue that came up with Dollar General is a whole different world, because that's actually a request outside of all the normal NPC stuff to change the law. So that's a whole different, I wouldn't smear those together. Right now in front of the board, there's a requested waiver of a,
Right.
meaningful requirement regarding stormwater, and the plan itself then secondarily hinges on that requested waiver.
And we consistently
So that's
have.
a proper thing for this body to look at. It's not appropriate, though, to get into
The aesthetics.
the aesthetics at all.
We consistently have Mr. Wilsbach or Mr. Joseph dealing with individuals that have stormwater management issues. So I do believe that this is of serious concern to our citizens. Mr. Joseph is constantly dealing with individuals, and I know Mr. Wilsbach has in the past dealt with stormwater management issues. So I think we need to address it, and I think we need to deny the request.
Ms. Lloyd, you go ahead.
Now, it sounds like you have the applicant here, so you may want to address them.
Ms. Lloyd?
I just wanted to clarify that that's what, Mr. Sykes' motion was to deny this special request regarding stormwater.
Yes, ma'am. I read it is about the
I did text
second paragraph down in the front page of the document that
maybe there's no issue, it's a smaller footprint than
was presented.
I did text that.
Okay.
It's in the picture I sent you, that's a circle beside it for those participating by phone.
Oh, geez, sorry, I had you muted. I'm sorry, yes, I see it. Just to clarify that that's what Scott said, is a little muffled.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other questions or comments? Madam Secretary, at this time, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich,
Yes.
Ms. Knoll, Ms. Knoll,
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd,
Yes.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Seitz.
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker,
Yes.
Mr. Readinger?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. The request was denied. Agenda item number 11.
Number 13.
I'm sorry, it's number 13.
This is a Human Relations Commission appointment. Mayor Curry received a letter of interest from Barbara O'Brien, a resident of Middletown, to serve on the Human Relations Commission and is recommending she be appointed to the commission. Motion to appoint Barbara O'Brien to the Human Relations Commission with the term to expire December 31st, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Willenbecker, a second by Councilor Puskevich. Any questions or concerns at this time?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I move that council postpone until the June 1st business meeting of council taking any action on a motion to confirm the appointment of Barbara O'Brien or anyone else to the Human Relations Commission in order to give council time to review at the May 18th workshop meeting whether it is appropriate to comprehensively restructure the commission and its mission, powers, and duties, or review whether it should even continue to exist, at least in its current form, or in a form that we would decide at a later date. And to be clear, this is not about the appointment of Mrs. O'Brien, it's about the powers of the MHRC as they are.
Would you have made the same motion if I renewed your appointment?
I absolutely would have, thank you.
I'm sure you would have.
We already have a motion.
No, that's a subsidiary motion that trumps the first one. This one has to be, if it's seconded, this one has to be acted on. It's similar to like a motion to amend or a motion to table, and it's a motion to postpone. So if there's no second, then it doesn't go anywhere. If there's a second, then there has to be a vote on that. It's either postponed. If not, then you're back to the main motion.
I have a motion by Ms. Lloyd.
President, I'm sorry, one other thing. Just as a little backdate of information, back in December when the MHRC was looking at the ordinance that has been in review for 3 years now, Mr. Diamond came to one of our meetings and we went through the ordinance. Now, unfortunately, we never had the chance to submit it because the 3 members that were on are no longer on the commission. But in that ordinance, after we made the changes at the recommendation of the solicitor, we had discussed whether or not the commission, or the committee, I'm sorry, should even stay as a committee, or if it should be made a commission, which, and Mr. Diamond can verify this, I have an email that says, it does make sense to some degree because it implies, but that it doesn't imply that it's engaging in the same types of processes as the PHRC. So this is something that has been being looked at since December of 2020.
And I do believe that there was reference made by our previous solicitor, McNeese, that the termination of the commission could be valid.
Could be valid? Yes, it can be. Now, some of the issues were whether it was displacing the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission in a way that actually could have people coming here for a resolution that, you know, really would be more appropriately done by the state with more resources, and, you know, whether it was actually potentially causing people to go to the wrong track, essentially. So there were lots of issues raised, lots of legal issues, if you were getting into actually handling the complaints. And then there was a lot of going back and forth with, if you remember, the ordinance was up for potential major amendments. Actually, it might have been before you came into council, but it was a process that never played out completely, looking at the changes to the ordinance and structure.
I have a motion. I have a motion on the floor by Ms. Lloyd. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilor Knoll. At this time, Madam Secretary, would you
Public
please? I should open it up for public comment.
I guess you can, because this motion to postpone is sort of not on the agenda, even though the concept was on the merits was on the agenda, so.
I have a motion and a second. At this time, I'll open it up for public comment.
Do you mind having Ms. Lloyd, restate the entire statement?
Ms. Lloyd, do you mind reading your motion, please?
Hang on one second.
Take your time.
While she's doing that, let me just point out, a parliamentarian point, that the discussion is limited to the concept of postponing, the wisdom of that, and to when. So that also would include, obviously, is it, worth or appropriate looking at comprehensively, reviewing the current ordinance and structure. Not on the table, though, appropriately would be the merits of the qualifications of Ms. O'Brien for the position. But that would be only if this fails, then we go back to the primary motion, and if there was any discussion on that point, it would be appropriate.
Thank you, Jim. Ms. Lloyd, are you ready?
Yes, I am, sorry. I move that Council President until the June first meeting of council taking any act on a motion to confirm the appointment of Barbara O'Brien or anyone Relations Commission in order to give council time to review at the 8/18 workshop meeting whether it is appropriate to comprehensively restructure the commission and commission power duties, or review whether it should even continue at least in its current form.
And it might be too close.
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd. At this time, public comment.
Mike Woodworth, 627 Hoffer Street. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, members of council, borough staff and administration. As a current member of the commission and former chairman of the commission for nearly 4 years, I'd just like to speak to the issues raised in the motion. The issue raised is, whether we should be expanding or, readdressing the powers and duties of the commission. At this time, there's no effort being made to do that. I do want to speak to what the commission's current ordinance and powers and duties are. To make it clear, human relations is the study and programs related to understanding, addressing, and resolving problems between people and affecting those people. In our current ordinance, approved 55 years ago on September 12, 1966, there are 7 powers and duties. I'm going to read 4 of them, over half of them. Number 1, promote mutual understanding, respect, and cooperation among all racial, cultural, religious, ethnic, nationality, and other groups within the borough of Middletown. Number 2, make studies into the status of human relations in the borough of Middletown. Number 3, cooperate with and assist other organizations, public or private, to improve the relationships among the citizens of the borough of Middletown. Number 4, encourage and conduct an educational program for furtherance of the improvement of human relations in the borough of Middletown, especially through public and private school systems, as well as religious groups. Now, as of the 2019 census, 30% of Middletown is non-white, 12% of us are African American descent, almost 4% are Asian, 9% Hispanic, 5% multiracial. The need for the commission is definitely there. In referral to the over half of the powers and duties as stipulated in our current ordinance, there is no overlapping with the Pennsylvania State HRC. We act as a referral body, an assisting body with residents when they do have claims of discrimination. In my many years of serving on the commission, I can think of 2 instances where we assisted individuals with that. We primarily directed our efforts at improving the understanding and relationships between residents in the Middletown community, because without that you have ignorance of how people live, how they live their lives, how they conduct themselves. That leads to misjudgment, that leads to intolerance, discrimination, and disturbing the peace and prosperity of the community that your body was elected to serve, and this body volunteers to serve. So with that said, I would plead to this body to please, in its judgment and its wisdom, to understand what the commission does, to understand that the commission is not trying to expand its powers or change what it does, and to understand and to support the commission in improving the prosperity and unity of our community, as I believe you are all elected to serve to do. So thank you.
Excellent. Any more, thank you, Mr. Woodward. Welcome. Any more public comment? I have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
No.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd?
Yes.
Ms. Miller?
No.
Mr. Seitz?
No.
Ms. Willenbecker?
No.
Mr. Redinger?
I abstain from this vote.
Explain why.
I recently, my company recently gave a proposal to, the applicant, so that's a separate situation.
No, it also could, if he thinks that might impact on whether he postpones it or not.
To be transparent to the body, to the residents, to the HRC, I'd like to abstain. The motion fails 4-2 with 1 abstention.
Now we're back to the already seconded main motion, which was the confirmation of the approval. Is it not?
And there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd? Ms. Lloyd?
Yeah. Yes.
Ms. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Seitz?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
Yes.
Mr. Redinger?
I abstain as well for the same reason. Motion carries 5 with 1 abstention. Congratulations, Mr. Bryan, to your appointment.
Mr. Ray, while you're at that, I would like to thank Mr. Holstein for also stepping up, and you as well.
Yes, thank you.
We do need more of you guys, this crew. What do you want to do?
Make more nut rolls.
I didn't say not rolls, that was Mr. Curry.
Agenda item number 14, time-sensitive business. I actually have one on here presented in front of you is a rendering of our Middletown Borough seal on a blue background for a flag. I would like to add a new flag. We have the American flag, we have the Pennsylvania state flag, and I'd love to present our Middletown flag next to both of them. Is any feedback from the body on this idea, this concept? It's our existing town seal.
I have feedback.
Yes.
I don't really like that design.
Can you elaborate?
Sure. I think it's too busy. I think it needs to be a little simpler. The stuff in the center going around, it kind of looks like leaves. I think distracts from what's in the center, and I think there's too much in the center.
Okay, that's some good feedback. Well, now that I'm looking at it, I do have a question about the boat. Does anybody know what the boat stands for?
Ferry.
The ferry. That's the ferry.
Is this?
That
This
is
is
our
that was developed right there.
There is a flag right there for the 250th anniversary from 2005. That design was made. There's a celebration at the 250th anniversary. There's fireworks out at the pool that some people may remember, and there's various festivities. The design depicted there is the exact design from that celebration.
Yeah, it is our town.
And this is the seal that we have on our letterhead?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's just a change of the background.
Yeah, I agree with Nancy. When you look at this boat, or this on paper, it does look too busy. But when you look at it up there, it looks entirely different.
And that's what you want to do, is a flag like this?
Yeah, a standard size flag.
I mean, I don't wanna get into design critiques, but, if the leaf trim was smaller, thinner, it might open up the middle a little bit, so it wouldn't feel so crowded. So that looks more like a decorative element. Right now, it's very heavy and weighted visually.
Grace, is that, do you have in a fashion that you could eliminate that?
Not unless they redesign it. Which I can ask them.
So we're not willing to have a flag in our borough chambers with our town seal on it as it stands, but we're sending this to every professional on our letterhead for the last 15 years with no issue? I mean, that seems silly to me.
Is the town clock?
What's your cost on that, Mr. Redmond?
It's around $170.
Around $170.
Does that include the pole and everything?
No, that's just the flag.
About another roughly 100-ish for the pole.
I think they were about 100. It's great. 100.
So,
Those poles.
under 300 bucks, about $300 total package, give or take. Safe, give or take. When I thought of this, I was not trying to reinvent the wheel. We do have the seal, like Jim said, on our crests. We have stampers with them. I was just trying to bring a little bit more Middletown back into the chambers, stand beside our state and American flag. I do think there's definitely, if I was designing this from scratch, I would definitely have some other things myself. Believe me.
Can I just ask a question, Ian?
Yes.
So, this is under time sensitive. Is there a reason it's under time sensitive and not why it wasn't brought up at the next workshop meeting? Is there an urgency that we have to order this now?
No, we can absolutely, I wanted to start the discussion. We can absolutely table it to the next meeting. It is, theoretically, is not time sensitive. And if everybody's okay with bringing it up at our workshop meeting, to think about it a little bit more, that's definitely fine. Does anybody else have any other time sensitive business?
Mr. Ryan? I know Mr. Kluskevich emailed about this, and I responded to his email. I think he and I were the only two that did, that I saw at least. The properties that we own here in town, and maybe Mr. Wilsbach will want to get involved here. Yeah, I think it's time we make a move on some of them now, and definitely put a game plan in place for the other ones that are key assets to this town that can be disposed of and properly put in the place of various business entities that will bring jobs to town. So I just want to open up that discussion. I know Mr. Kluskevich, I know you had thought it was important to discuss, so do you want to add anything there?
No, the only property that I had listed on there that I was unsure of, and then of course we did get an email back from Matt, that was the mill race, which we cannot sell, and I understand why. Personally, I would like to see us move forward quickly on getting rid of the two properties that have no buildings on them, the one on Ann Street and I forget where the other one is, but there's also the garage on Emont Street. The three of those, I believe, we should be able to disperse those quickly. I don't really know how we go about doing that. Do we hire a realtor? Do we have to have the property surveyed? But I think those three can be eliminated quickly.
Yeah, Rich, we're going to let Mr. Donovan
explain the legal process, and then we can kind of make sense of how we want to approach this. But so
thank you, Jim.
Yeah, so for borough-owned property, the statutory approach we're supposed to take, and we would have some decisions to make within that approach, is for any property that's worth more than $6,000, we have to either do it by auction, or it's more commonly done by advertisement for bids.
Can I stop you?
Yep.
When you say value at over $6,000, is that appraised value, assessed value,
Yeah,
or?
appraised value
Okay.
essentially. Because you kinda have to justify if you were going off of the normal process. So the normal process would be, and the way it's typically done, because it's, you know, more due diligence and more, you know, it seems to get better results, is advertisement for bids as opposed to paying an auctioneer to come in. So, you know, we have to advertise 2 times, and, you know, at least 30 days ahead, 2 consecutive weeks. Now, where we'd have to make some decisions is what the terms of the bid would be. So obviously, you know, the dollar amount's the dollar amount, but you would have some latitude to, you know, determine what the agreement would look like. Generally, most municipalities require, you know, that the bid be accompanied by a deposit in case it's accepted, and then X number of days to pay cash. But you do have the latitude to decide some of the other material terms, like, are you selling it with a quit claim deed as is, or are you giving a little more promise to it with a special warranty deed? You know, some basic terms like that, nothing too elaborate, because this is pretty basic stuff.
We can place a minimum bid?
You can place a minimum bid, and we also would always recommend that, you know, the formal advertisement and the bid stipulations would be that if you decide to, you can reject all bids. You don't have to take one of them. And then there's a procedure, and I've had to do it for other municipalities. Sometimes there's no bids. If you do that, if you try and get no bids, then there's another procedure you can go through. You try one more time, and if you don't get any bids within 15 days, then you are done having to follow the process, and council by resolution can follow a different path, and you can hire a realtor and do all kinds of different things that way. But you first have to exhaust this procedure. So it's, you know, you're not really running out hiring a realtor normally. You're kind of figuring out your own advertisement within the you know, request for bids. And it should be fairly simplistic. You know, you want to give enough time that people can do some due diligence. They can, you know, do a title search. Maybe you want to, I mean, you could also help the process along, and that's kind of something you have to decide. Do you want to do a title search that you put into the bid packet that kind of ease the way for people to buy it without, you know, folks going out separately doing things? You know, presumably we would not be investing in what we call phase 1, an assessment of the hazardous waste issues and things like that. Although most, you know, sophisticated commercial buyers would not close on property without a phase 1, so you may want to build into those parameters, you know, time for somebody to get that, you know, where you're not, obviously the more that you run it like a sheriff sale of, you got, you know, 10 minutes to come up with money or whatever, the lower the numbers are going to be. So if you bake in a little bit of extra leeway for somebody puts in their bid, it gets accepted, and you can still have it be subject to 30 days to do, you know, a phase 1, or, you know, we could stipulate a few things depending on what makes sense. Maybe talk to Greg about what the properties are like. If, you know, one's up against an industrial site or something like that, it might be, you know, might get us higher bids if we, you know, build in a couple of those terms. So you kind of look at it property by property to see what makes sense.
If we wanted to sell 211 Ann Street, that's one of the ones on the list that was provided by Mr. Kluskevich. It's a vacant lot right now, house burned down, sitting empty. Our first step would be to appraise the property.
Well, you don't have to, so when you go through this, unless you're going to take a position you think it's under $6,000, you don't have to get it, you know,
we don't have to do.
You don't have to get an appraisal done as a matter of course. That, you know, you're going through the process of whatever the highest, if it's acceptable to you guys, you know. And you know, if you think it's a valuable property and you want that knowledge base, you certainly can have that done. Otherwise, you can simplistically try to look at things like the indicated value coming off of the assessment. That's not always, especially if you had a house that burned down. But you know, presumably the utility stubs are still there, so there's some value to it. You know, more than just vacant land, it's probably more than vacant land, because it's a fill-in property, it's, you know, probably already has all its approvals for residents and utilities in place and that sort of thing. But yeah, you can even do different ones differently if they make sense. Vacant, though, you can be very basic with it, because it's not like doing due diligence on a building. If you think about it, you know, if you got the title and you got a phase one potentially, and for some folks you have, is it feasible to build something on it? Somebody can look at that pretty quickly with, you know, within 30 days and everything.
Would this be more appropriate for the workshop?
Oh, yeah, no, we would have to work out all those details. I think it is a workshop discussion. I don't think you were suggesting that today we're, because again, we'd have to come up with what do you want us to bake into an RF, or a, you know, advertisement, and we would put it in front of, you know.
I'm not suggesting a motion today, but I'm not suggesting a 16-month long process like the Dulwich process.
Right.
Can I ask another question? So if we sell the property, do we have, besides zoning laws, I'm assuming the zoning laws would stay in effect for any property, that they couldn't do certain things with the property once they bought it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so although it doesn't, there's no special status to these.
Okay.
In fact, the only thing that really changes is they become taxable properties unless it's a nonprofit buying it, you know, tax exempt property. But otherwise, you know, right now we're tax immune, and, you know, turned over to, you know, private owners, generally they're gonna be, you know, taxable property. But all, you know, zoning doesn't change, any of those kinds of things. It is what it is.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Timing,
Yep.
a few months back, we were moving forward with some discussion on the Elks.
Yes.
Have we gotten any further with that?
You mean for selling that?
Yes.
Yeah, that went nowhere, but we certainly could put that one up, you know, for bid.
Well, it's on my list.
Yeah,
And I
certainly can
did
be.
send you were the recipient of the email, I believe.
Yeah.
Or Rich, are you referencing that the whole condominium thing? Is that?
Well, the Elks building part of it.
Well, then didn't that have to be resolved in order for it to be sold?
Well, we could either sell it as a condominium unit without doing that, or subdivide it into separate property.
Well, I think
if somebody
that's
could buy
what
a
you're referencing,
condominium
right?
unit, we wouldn't
Right.
have to do that. And we could sell it as a condominium unit.
Is that what you were referencing, Rich? That whole discussion?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, if we're able to find a buyer, then, you know.
I would never buy this condominium, personally.
Yeah.
I think we'd have an easier time selling it if it was subdivided.
Okay.
That's just.
I would just like to sell the property and get rid of it, personally.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, you could try, if you're gonna do this, throw out an advertisement for bids as a condominium, and if nothing comes back, then you can subdivide it and, you know.
Okay. Well, we're not gonna resolve this issue tonight. I understand it's gonna have to go on to the next workshop meeting. So, as far as properties, we had 211 Ann Street, the 815 East Main, and the 510 West Emos Street were the three properties that have either nothing or a garage sitting on them. The big properties would have been the Elks Theater, the Main Street Gym, and the water impoundment, the Round Top, the reservoir itself. Those were the three large properties. And yes, we need to do some discussion on what we want to do with these.
Yeah.
Just so it's on everybody's, it's out in front of everybody, because I know there was discussion about purchasing the Amtrak parking lot, which seems to be a larger property than what everybody first thought.
Yeah, where are we at with the Amtrak parking lot? Have we engaged with an appraiser to?
Yeah, I know Ken was dealing with that, I don't know where, with,
I think Ken's last email said, what's the point of the appraisal when it's
Yeah.
already been, I think it was, the property itself was listed at $70,000 for tax purposes.
Yeah, but I know he was talking to Amtrak.
So are we offering them 70,000 or 500,000?
My personal opinion, we offer them cost of transfer.
Well, the other part of that issue is if we do purchase that, because it is both sides of the tracks, what's our liability as far as, do we have to put up fencing to keep people off the tracks? Do we just take the property over and is it a crapshoot that hopefully nobody gets killed?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to be reasonable, you know, with your property, although, you know, you have the Subdivision Tort Claims Act. If there are defects or negligent, aspects to real estate, that is one of the exceptions to the Tort Claims Act, so.
Yes.
You would.
I was
have
just
to
looking
be-
at it from a legal standpoint because I didn't realize it was property on both sides of the railroad tracks until he sent that map out the other week.
Do we know where Amtrak stands on this? Are they?
Ken had asked if, council wanted him to send a letter, and he didn't get that motion from you guys at the last meeting, so.
Mr. President, I make a motion to offer Amtrak the cost of transfer of the property to the borough of Middletown. That will be all legal fees we will pay for the transfer of the property.
I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilor Sykes, a second by Councilor Luskevich. At this time, before I open it up for council's consideration, I'd like to open up for public comment. Mr.
I think, I understand where you're going with that, but I think maybe before we go ahead and do that, that we initiate the conversation, because there are things such as, we have taken care of that property since day one, and did not build them. We've done a lot with that property, and I don't think you go in there and put your fist down and say, we want this for just the cost of transferring, because quite frankly, Amtrak doesn't need to get rid of anything.
You just made my argument. Thank you very much.
Let us go and start at that point, and then we work from there. I know it's your argument, but I don't think you go in and demand that.
No, it's not a demand.
I think we go in there and simply say, you know, this, we think, you know, all the years that we've taken care of this, that, you know, really we should get
It's
this
not a
back from
demand.
you.
It's, thank you, you're one government entity, this is what we've done for you, and this is what we would like in return.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd just rather do it a little bit more, you know.
Well, that's why we hired you guys, to do that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, now, the other consideration, and I, you know, is, if you're getting that, you're obviously getting it as is. I don't know enough personally about the history of it, and, you know, in the real estate world, we're always concerned that even like a free piece of property without a phase one could be worth maybe 7 figures, so, I mean, there is a little bit of trade-off to, if you're offering somebody saying it's contingent upon, you know, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, you know, we can cancel it, we do with phase one. And I will say, you know, I've been involved in the whole former railroad properties. I don't know if this was that kind of thing, but where they had all kinds of oils and things, you know, they were really were contaminated properties because they used to be like where they repaired old locomotives and that sort of thing. I have no reason to think this was other than a private parking lot, but I just don't know about the properties. Just a thought.
Environmental impact, I'm sure the environmental study was done definitely even back then, when they put that in, you know, before they put that in there. And that was not, you know, that was not an area where they do work on trains and so forth.
Clearly, he does make a valid point, and I would be willing to rescind and adjust my motion to include the phase one, well, include environmental inspection clearances, if you are.
I concur.
I have a motion by Councilor Seitz, a second by Councilor Kuskiewicz.
Do you need us to re-verify that?
Please, for the record.
Make a motion to purchase the existing Amtrak lot at legal cost to transfer the property to the Borough of Middletown, including proper environmental inspections.
In a phase one.
Yeah, contingent
Okay.
upon a clean
Phase
environmental assessment.
Phase one evaluation by our solicitor.
Yeah.
No, we don't want to contingent upon phase one, because it could be phase two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's either a clean phase one or you have the right to
Well,
reject it
okay.
or move to phase two. Yeah, just say environmental assessment.
Yeah.
But satisfactory environmental assessment.
Okay. Motion and a second. I want to reopen it to public comment just to be on the safe side. Seeing no public comment, questions or concerns by council?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I am in favor of working something out with him, whether it's purchasing or leasing, which is what I thought they had expressed to Ken. But I am going to be voting no because I do agree with Mr. Wilstock that we should engage with them in conversation. And because Mr. Klein Peter is not here, I don't really know if he has spoken to them, you know, between our last two meetings or not. So I would like to hear what Ken has to say before we move forward. So I will be voting no.
Understood. Any other? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Kuskiewicz?
Yes.
Ms. Knoll?
No.
Ms. Lloyd?
No.
Ms. Miller?
No.
Mr. Seitz?
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker?
No.
Mr. Reddinger?
Yes. Motion fails 4-3. Any other time-sensitive business? Go ahead.
Mr. Reddinger, tonight we graciously had 2 volunteers to the community, and we thank you for that. With that being said, though, we do still need additional volunteers. With that being said, I wanted to open up the discussion of increasing the stipend to volunteers so that it would be potentially more rewarding and more enticing to get volunteers to the various organizations. Just wanted to open it up to the counselors, gauge some opinion, see if maybe $500 is too much. Just gauge some thought and see opinions. But you know, for the amount of time that they put into it, it is worth getting some compensation. And just wanted to open that up.
I said, we'll have to check the borough code before you can implement anything, just, certain of those things have caps.
Sure.
But
Just wanted for
that
discussion.
makes sense.
Are we discussing this tonight?
If anybody has any comment, we can add.
I'm hoping not to discuss it 16 months from now.
What I will say is this: I am not, as you know, seeking re-election, and it was my intention once I was out of office, and I could not stand to benefit from any such increase, to tell the community, in my opinion, that those stipends should be increased. That was a message I was going to deliver when I was done my tenure. Obviously, somebody sitting on this council, you have to vote for it. Somebody's going to be sitting and getting the benefit at the same time. I'm comfortable finishing my term with what it is, but in the future, I do believe that should be looked at. That's been on the books for many, many years, and you have people with professional backgrounds that are not going to give up their time in the future for something like that. I'm comfortable doing it, I've donated the money back, but I think Scott's point is a good one. Maybe it would entice some people to come out of the woodwork without breaking the bank. Obviously, you have your budget concerns, however.
But we are giving back to the citizens, and that's what these citizens want.
So I just
I
think
think
it's
the Democrat Party made that quite clear, they like giving back to the citizen.
it's a discussion that at least should be had. And I just wanted to go on record as saying that was one of the final things I was going to mention before going out of office, is that it should at least, I want to be very clear for the record, it should at least be a discussion. I'm not giving you a number, I'm not telling you any changes, I'm just saying it should be a discussion. Because perhaps it entices some, we have a hard enough time getting volunteers for just about anything that you put up. And I'm not saying that money makes the world go round, but maybe some people, if they're going to give up their time from their professional job or their family, maybe they feel that that could help them. So, that's my point.
I think that was very well said, and I actually do second that and agree with that. Obviously, I'm on the ballot, and I may benefit from such action, but I took a look at the number of people that came out, and you look at the mayor's race, we had one candidate, and it wasn't really a good one. Maybe if there's a little bit more incentive, we might get a better outcome across the board, not just with mayor, but with council and other volunteer positions. So yes, I'm definitely always welcome to discussion. So with that said, if anybody else has anything else they'd like to comment, I'd love to hear it. Or we could definitely add it to the workshop agenda so everybody can sleep on it a little bit. Update, do we have, Mr. Solicitor, do we have an update on the dog leash?
Sally, just note that I
Well,
said I was going to discuss
provided
that
to
at the end of my
the,
term.
police
I'm not
department,
seeking that.
Dog leash.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had provided that to the police department as directed beginning of March, where comments, haven't gotten any comments. I did send that follow-up, saying if we don't hear anything by the next work session, we'll assume that there aren't any concerns about practical policing from the various provisions, and then council consider the various types of provisions. But we do put them out there in a proposed ordinance and pass it.
So what I'm hearing is by our next business meeting, we can have possibly a motion or an action item that we can vote on?
Well, we can actually, at the workshop, I think, make a determination whether, and there should be some discussion, because there are parameters in there that you can, what I did was I sent a series of the types of provisions you could have, and some of them go a little bit beyond just the leash, but also cleaning up after dogs, those kinds of things. Whether you want to put those into a dog control ordinance or not, and what the terms are. But I know initially we did have a concern that, was this something the police could enforce, or do they think they'd have issues with it, or, concerns about it. But we haven't heard of any concerns or, any suggestions or comments.
Okay. Any other time-sensitive business or anything else the borough has or mayor has? I should say council or mayor has. Seeing none, I'd like to open it up to general public comment.
Mike Haber. Just briefly, before you guys convene for the evening and take off, and knowing I probably won't get a chance to speak with you individually, especially if Lou is not here tonight, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the commission, on behalf of the residents that the commission has worked for in years past and for years to come, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for your support.
Excellent. You're welcome. We're glad you're here. Thank you for your dedication. Well, go ahead.
Just wanted to let the audience know that April 22nd at 9 a.m. the Middletown Business Association has a cleanup day. They'll be meeting in Alfred's Victoria, and it is in conjunction with Sue Ez, and they are providing the cleanup material, such as trash bags and so forth. Urge everyone to come out, including our new volunteers, Mr. Holstein and Miss O'Brien.
Any other?
And Mr. Woodward.
Any
Put it on
other-
my calendar.
Any other general public comment?
It's a mural day.
That's a Thursday, so I doubt that's a mural day.
Scott, Friday we start power washing. You just come down and pick up a hose with us.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
I'll raise your trash bag and see you at the road.
Yeah.
At this time, I'd like a motion to adjourn the meeting, and we would adjourn to executive session where we would discuss potential litigation and personnel. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Are you returning?
We will not be returning, thank you.
Second.
I would like to ask one question in public prior to our departure.
Without objection?
Mayor Curry? About a month ago, we approved the gentleman. Where do we stand at this time?
I think you'll be getting that update in the executive session.
Is there anything to release to the fine folks that are here or listening abroad?
Yes, but everything went according to plan, and everything turned out well.
So what you're saying is we'll have a new individual here shortly?
That's your decision as the council members, so long as you're comfortable with everything discussed in the executive session, and there's no change of minds, then I think you're good to go.
Then if that's the case, I would like to actually return so we can do that in public.
At this, would you two like to rescind your motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Excellent. At this time, I'd like to recess to executive session where we will discuss personnel and potential litigation. And we will be returning.
I didn't want.
Ms. Lloyd, we're
Yes.
filtering back out, 1 second.
Okay.
Donnie and, Rich, are you still on the,
I'm here.
At this time, I'd like to report on an executive session. We discussed, potential litigation and personnel.
Mr. President?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to request all legal fees associated with the employment issues for George Machette from the date of his criminal charges forward.
Second.
A motion by Counselor Seitz, I have a second by Counselor Willenbecker. Before I open it up to council, I'd like to open it up for public comment.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Yes, sir. Making a motion to request all legal fees associated with employment issues for George Machette from the date of his criminal charges forward.
Sir.
Seeing no public comment, questions or concerns?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can I ask for you to explain what you're looking for? I'm not just trying to understand the motion, that's my.
Yeah, our legal fees in this community are out of control, no offense, Mr. Diamond. And we just wanna know how much we are paying the solicitors to resolve a situation that has been hanging over our heads thanks to the Dauphin County District Attorney's Office for 2.5 years.
Okay, thank you, you were muffled, I really couldn't hear what you said, thank you for clarifying.
We just want to make the community aware of how much money the Dauphin County District Attorney's Office is costing our residents with regards to this situation.
Any other public or any other council comment? Seeing Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich,
Yes.
Ms. Knoll, Ms. Knoll,
I heard you.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Ms. Lloyd,
I'm gonna abstain.
Ms. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Seitz,
Yes.
Ms. Willenbecker,
Yes.
Mr. Reddinger,
Yes, motion carries with 1 abstention. At this time, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Wilbeck.
Oh.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I thought the whole speech was coming out to tell us what was going on with the public safety director.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we can, thank you, Dawn. Yes, Mayor, do you wanna provide an update?
Yes, so the Borough Council was briefed on all results from background checks conducted by Transparency International, specifically Rick Brown. He confirmed that Mr. Baldwin has passed all of the checks, including the polygraph test, drug and alcohol screening, criminal background checks, psychological evaluation, reference checks, credit checks, vetting of prior work history, interview, and I believe and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were only 2 more pieces of information he was awaiting from New Hampshire. Once those 2 pieces of information are acquired, he will supplement his final report. Mr. Baldwin will be given a commencement date.
Excellent. I appreciate the update. Does anybody from council have any questions in regards to the update? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.